I really wanted the last part of this discussion to continue. It was really getting interesting, and we can't have enough of the information that we're going to get, but we're definitely having a wrap-up remark at the end of the two sessions, and that was the intention of the structure that we had for today's panel discussion, is that we get the in and out, the in-out and then the out-in perspective on design process, and then kind of merge the two together. So I'll introduce you for the second session. Our first speaker is Jaafar Bu Hulaiga. Jaafar graduated from the University of Dammam in what year is it? I think it was yeah. So as soon as he graduated, he joined Ghassan Consultants. The office was owned by his brother at the time, and then he first joined the office in 2001 while he was still in school, and then he stayed in the office until 2012. At one point, his brother passed away, and he continued to run the office himself. I have always monitored his work, projects, public presentations, and tweets about the architectural discipline. His commentaries on the challenges and pressures in the Saudi market strikes me always the most. He is now a senior project engineer after leaving Ghassan Consultants and the project manager at Mustang HDP. Among his duties is managing project progress, time and cost, resources, teams, scope of work, and things that we heard from the first session. So I welcome him. I also welcome Yousif Al Hamoudi. Yousif, I know Yousif from playing soccer together. He's a striker, and he continues to strike in the professional field. His professional experience, he worked on different companies, and that's one thing that he's also good in. He knows where to position himself. He worked for an Ula development company holding responsibilities such as project management, feasibility studies, and technical write-ups. He also worked for a Bahrain Amar company. He also brings another perspective to his background. He worked on with Sator on Aramco-based projects, and now he's the Deputy General Manager at a retail development company. One of his projects that I know that he's probably monitoring at the time is the Qayrawan in Half Moon Bay. He has a master's degree in construction management and a bachelor's of architecture. Last but not least is Professor Yahya Najjar, and I really don't want to say a lot because I'm sure that 99.9% of the people here knows Professor Yahya Najjar, but I wanted to introduce him in a different way, a more personal perspective. I met Professor Yahya Najjar in 2003 when I walked in his office at Riyadh Consultants and asked that I get a summer internship job at his office. I had very weak digital skills as a student still at the University of Dammam. He generously offered, instead of being involved in projects and not learning a lot, he offered me a corner in his office and for 3 months taught me various graphical softwares, among which of course is FormZ and other ones as well. Professor Najjar for more than 23 years continues to teach at KFUPM. He was learning architecture before the time that I saw light. I was in my mother's belly at the time. He continued his education at the University of Washington in Seattle, and now he holds so many teaching activities in KFUPM, and he continues to, he amazes us by his professional experience, and we just heard a bit of it just now. So I welcome the speakers, and I will be moderating the event.
So before we start, just to give you a brief about Abdurahman, because so I will introduce Abdurahman Medallah. He's director of AKM Partners. He graduated from Syracuse University, holding the Advanced Master of Architecture, post-professional program in architecture, He also graduate of Dammam University. He has received the Masters in Urban Design from University of Colorado in 2011. He was appointed the Director of Research and Assessment at the Boston Architectural College, where he advised research and design work in addition to his teaching and research. Abdurahman, more than 12 years of experience in firms in the Middle East. So, and recently Abdurahman is actually part-time faculty members in KFUPM. He run design studios and other courses with us. So I'd like you also to welcome Abdurahman.
Which one is working?
Yeah, that's
Only
okay.
one. We have only one.
How do you turn it on?
It's off.
So, when we wanted to hold the panel discussions, we wanted the discussion to be as casual as possible to get the most out of our distinguished guests. So, I'm going to get comfortable, and I hope that you do as well. So, I'm going to start with giving you a brief about the second session. The second session, design process, out-in, looks at design process through the points that controls and places decisions around space making. Looking at governmental and private developments, strategies and objectives, architectural engineering firms and its existence in the Saudi market, competition between large, medium and small scale offices, and the pressures on the Saudi architectural office. So I'm going to direct the first question to my speakers today. The Saudi government since the 1960s and thereafter have generated a vision towards raising the national economy through various industries. But no doubt, oil and petrochemicals remains the most rampant and one that influences other national industries. How do you see the relations between the oil industry and the construction industry? What are the links and what are the influences on both?
First of all, good day, gentlemen. I think it's a simple formula. It's more money equal more construction. I think this formula is loaded with reality. I don't know if you prefer to convert the speech to Arabic, so
I would
just
actually
make sure
prefer
that
it, yeah. So I would prefer it if you feel that we want us to talk in Arabic.
We have some non-Arabic speakers, but that's fine. So.
it's okay. So اعتقدنا فورمولا بسيطة جدا. في اويل، في فلوس، في كونستراكشن. الحمد لله السنوات الماضية كانت الأمور تمام يعني طيبة خاصة في موضوع البترول والأسعار وعلى ذلك الحكومة كانت مستمرة في الدعم ومستمرة في دعم مشاريع الكونستراكشن.
Okay, so if there is a lot of oil, there is a lot of money. But on a personal level, okay, as long as we have mothers that are bringing in babies, okay, to life, then that means we need construction and we need to, provide schools, hospitals, houses, and so on. Okay, regardless whether the government is building new buildings or otherwise. Okay. Now, if we look back at the previous years, okay, and how the construction cycle actually went in Saudi Arabia, we had what we call the economic booms. So when there is, an economic boom, which translate into, petrodollars, the construction, the government actually pumps in a lot of money in the market, and the construction industry will flourish. where, you know, in lean times, of course, everything will slow down, and but that does not mean that, you know, the people will stop constructing, but not at the same level. I think that's in a nutshell.
I'm going to actually continue with my second question. We're looking at architecture and the construction industry from a large perspective at this point. And definitely, do you see, and I think you started doing this, do you see any slowness in the construction, kind of with eliminating the what happened to Saudi Arabia in the second Gulf War? Do you think that construction will ever slow down at one point with the war, specifically that we're targeting now, shifts in the oil prices?
You know, the war that we are fighting now is not on our soil, so it's, you know, the effect is not going to be felt right away, especially with developers. لأنه في مثل يقول رأس المال جبان, all right, and there are other factors actually affecting the slowness. Right now there is a slowdown, I feel it, in the development, and you know, sales of land, sales of units, and so on. However, the government is building more than 500 units, okay? And if you look at the statistics, there are villas, apartments, or loans, okay, that have been granted for more than actually 500,000 families throughout the kingdom. So that will not slow some of that sector. Aramco is building 8,000 units, actually, expanding the Hanan campus.
Yeah.
This project has been, you know, on and off for quite some time. Now I understand that it is on again, okay, and they are starting. I think our friends from Jacob Sales know about this, and they're working with them on it. So this will actually provide a lot of housing units in the market. But on the personal level, on the, you know, individual levels, you know, people are really very careful. One thing that we have to remember is that people are accepting to live in apartments now. This was not heaved off, you know, a long time ago. Everybody wanted a villa with, you know, a separate garage and a swimming pool, and you know, minimum area was 600 square meters for one block. Now people are accepting 300 or less. Apartments will do. Exactly. So that also the society, the mentality of the population has changed depending on the economical situation of the.
Yousif, since we're talking about housing, I have this question so far down, so I'm going to bring it up. Are you currently with Rital slowing any of the projects? يعني هل تشوف إنه أنتوا أخذتوا نظرة استراتيجية؟ طول صوتك. ما ناخذ راحتنا ونرفع صوتنا. لا. تشوف أنكم وقفتوا أي واحدة من المشاريع اللي الآن شغالين فيها مع ريتال؟
طيب لا، في الشركة عندنا الآن المشاريع ماشية في وتيرة بنفس الوتيرة. نتكلم على أعطي مقدمة قبل هذا. الآن طبعا نتكلم عن الحكومة قاعدة تضغط على المطورين، أتكلم عن المستثمرين أول شيء. قاعدة تضغط على المستثمرين بطريقة بأساس كنترول الأسعار الأراضي سواء داخل المدن وخارجها طبعا، وتضغط على خارج المدن أساس أنها تنزل. منها قرارات البنك مثلا 30%، وفي أكثر من قرار الآن قاعد يطلع على الموضوع اللي لسه الآن ما فعل، اللي هو موضوع رسوم الأراضي. فهم الآن جالسين يضيقون الخلاف على المطورين على أساس اللي ما هم مطورين، ملاك الأراضي اللي قاعد يسيطرون عليها، على أساس أنها تنزل أسعار الأراضي، وبالتتابع طبعا راح تنزل سعر الوحدة السكنية. اللي متوقع خلال الفترة الجاية، واحنا كشركة تطوير عقاري كبيرة نتكلم عن لارج سكيل، عندنا نتكلم عن مشاريع بعد فترة ما راح تأثر، خاصة حجم رأس المال اللي موجود عند الشركة ما راح تأثر تأثير قوي جدا. المطورين صغار زي ما قال الدكتور يحيى على موضوع المطورين صغار، هم اللي راح يكون في عندهم، اللي اتوقع انهم راح يطلعون من السوق، اللي راح يبقى الفترة القادمة هم المطورين اللي عندهم القدرة المالية، اللي عندهم الصبر، واللي عندهم فيجن واضح. فهذا اللي متوقع خلال الفترة القادمة اللي بيصير. من ناحية الشركة الآن مشاريعنا أبدا ما في أي توقف في المشاريع، ومستمرة على نفس الوتيرة.
ممتاز. إن شاء الله إنه هذا كلام يبشر بالخير. Jaafar, what type of projects do you handle with Mustang currently? The scale, talk about the scale, the size.
Yeah. Basically I'm an architect, when I joined them, I assigned as a senior project engineer, and I was handling which we call it EWO's projects, under special project group. EWOs mean that small project which is less than 5,000 man hours. This is management, let us say, sizes, or somehow they divide the projects to scale the projects actually. And right now I'm assigned to work under BNI, which is infrastructure and plant and infrastructure business unit, which is dealing with BI projects, which is mega and big projects, which is below 50,000 man hours. And here we are focusing on design process. When we say projects, I mean design projects, not a construction. So we start from PDR, building or design request, a project design request, until we deliver our final package, which is detailed design.
You said 50,000 man hours, and I think this is something that needs to be clarified. What does it mean, man hours?
Man hours, we have actually, I'll explain something which is deeply related to the management, which is not related to architect, but anyhow, the architect, he should be manager, but anyhow. Here we divide actually, during our estimation, we divide the project man hours to direct and indirect man hours. The direct man hours, which is engineering man hours, the engineering of effort, which is, let us say, the architect's man hours, the civil engineer, the CAD operator, all the technical stuff. They are estimating their man hours, and they are putting on the estimation sheet. We have a special format for Aramco project, especially. Indirect man hours, which is including the management man hours and support, let us say secretary, project control, document control, all this supporting team, and also management man hours, which is even including the site visit, writing scope, developing scope of work. And this is what we are calling direct and indirect man hours. The sum of this direct and indirects give you the total man hours which is required for your design, your scope for.
It's pretty interesting. This is probably how you budget your project, based on the number of hours?
Absolutely. You can say it's more or less it's a breakdown for the activities. When you look to our design process from a management perspective, we have to break down our activities and break down our estimate, man-hour estimate, to discuss it or to negotiate it with the client, because you have a very tough client around.
Right. Yousif, you deal with designers too, do you award projects? Do you do design within retail, or do you give it to someone else?
نورمالي طبعا احنا نتعامل مع مكاتب هندسيه. فرانكلي تيلينج يعني اعتقد ان الجلسه هذه تحتاج الى مثل ما يقولون جلسه صراحه، مثل ما يقولون، يعني الشباب قدامهم مستقبل ان شاء الله راح يكون باهر. في السعوديه المكاتب الهندسيه الى الان ما وصلت الى النضج المطلوب بكل امانه، حتى المكاتب تعتبر كبيره الى الان نشوف ان فيها يعني نتكلم على نوت ماتشوريت، يعني هذا اللي نشوفه. الى الان احنا قاعدين نصمم اعدادنا برا السعوديه، سواء في دبي، طبعا في دبي او عن طريق المكاتب خارجها. لنا اكسبيرينس معينه مع المكاتب الهندسيه اللي موجوده هنا. نتكلم عن الاكسبيرينس ليس كرياتيفيتي، نتكلم على البروتوتايب والكوب، موضوع الكوبي والشغلات هذه الان موجوده في المكاتب، الا يعني ما نعمم الكلام هذا طبعا، لكن نتكلم عن الخبره موجوده الان، ولا تقدر تجرب كل المكاتب، لكن هذه الفكره العامه اللي موجوده الان في السوق.
كيف احنا كنا بنتكلم مع بادجت لما بنتعامل مع كلاينت زي ارامكو، لما نجي نضع الميزانيه لمشروع نضعها على حسب الاورز. انتم بتتعاملوا مع مكاتب هندسيه، هل بتعوضوهم بساعه العمل ولا
لا؟ باليونتس، تسوي اليونتس. نعم. نتكلم على الوحدات على حسب السايز اللي موجود، في الاخير ناخذ تسعيرات على حسب سعر الوحده نفسها.
رأيك صريح؟
Well, I hear the statement from الأخ يوسف that architectural local offices are not up to the task, so I'm gonna give him my business card. See the difference. Now,
I was about to do the same. The first question actually was, that Saudi Arabia has gone through, tremendous change since the 1960s, and I think something happened in the after the 1960s, actually after the oil boom in Riyadh, and that might have an impact on architectural offices now. The thing is, at that time, Saudi Arabia was, not as rich as it was after Tadri. It jumped to $28. So, that's a big jump. So there was a lot of money that was pumped into the treasury. And as I, remember listening to King Salman, who was the prince at the time, he was telling us, I remember in a meeting in Riyadh, that the government didn't know what to do with this money. So they just bought land from the people so they can actually give them cash to start constructing new buildings, because there were only traditional buildings, mud buildings in Riyadh and otherwise. At that time, there were not enough architects in Saudi Arabia, local architects, or even foreign architects. So what the municipality did, they have created a brochure with like 10 prototypes for villas. And this brochure was sold to the general public for 100 riyals. All right, and in the brochure you could actually select a design, and then from that design just go ahead, and it's approved because it's done by the municipality. You don't need any other approvals, and you can go ahead and construct your villa. Now, if you compare this to an architect, like for example Rashid al-Rashid, who at that time came back from the States and established an office, and he was trying to compete with the municipality. All right, if I can get a design, quote unquote, for 100 riyals, why should I pay Rashid al-Rashid 200 riyals? Not even 5,000. Well, we're talking about 200 twice. Why should I do that since I can get this? This actually lowered the standards, unfortunately. And since that day, people did not appreciate design, because it all happened at one time. Okay, the municipality in Riyadh alone was issuing 700 permits every day. 700 permits every single day. I cannot imagine any department can handle that much load. Okay, looking at every single design. So that actually resulted in people not realizing the importance of architecture. And to go to the university and get a degree, in architecture, go through, tough professors like Dr. Absail, okay, and then compare yourself to somebody who goes to, for example, Tarikh or Geography, or at the end of the day you graduate with the same salary. People actually didn't want to study architecture or engineering for that matter. So that affected, in my opinion, the whole industry. All right, because architects are not well paid, people don't appreciate design, and العمارة أصبحت مهنة من لا مهنة له. Everybody is an architect. Okay, I talk about my brother. He's a pharmacist. He designs villas for his friends. Okay, because what is architecture? Okay, this to also answer to Yousif's point is that there are no good architectural offices in Saudi Arabia. That's because of some compensation. The people who have money or power, they're not appreciating the role of the architect in society. Okay, so people tend to go to other disciplines, engineering.
I think definitely this is the hot topic that we wanted to have today. Behind you we have a chart that where we listed comparison between the compensation that you get from commercial offices versus government, and we're putting under government clients like Saudi Aramco, Royal Commission, and SABIC, and so on. So you're definitely getting more compensation from the government, and especially public-private agencies rather than only public agencies, because ministries also either not pay or delay in payments, or sometimes the compensation is very low. But definitely in the commercial field, the compensation is definitely very low. So if you're a consultant and you're running your own office, that's something that you face tremendously. Jaafar, you've worked in both. You've worked in and I think this really puts the spotlight on you here. You've worked on your own office or your brother's office, but you managed the office yourself, and then you've worked there since 2002 or 2003, and then until 2012, for almost 10 years you've been in the office, and recently you joined Mustang. Can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, and actually I also continue my master's degree with the research which is focusing on the architectural office in Saudi Arabia, which is focusing on the house. It was from the management perspective. At that time we had the architecture management program in our university. It's studying how the information technology affecting the architectural work from the practicing point of view. Actually, here we have to understand our architectural market in Saudi Arabia. We have very complicated. I was promised myself to be very optimistic, but when I talk about this point, I cannot. I have to say the truth in front of the students. We have a very complicated market. We have unfair market, unbelievable. If you go and focus and study the percentage and the gaps between the offices, which is the big offices and the small offices. Unfortunately, we cannot say we have medium offices. We have very little, okay, and we doesn't have any official scale to classify the offices, okay. So when you come to the small offices, we have, I think, around more than 300 offices in Dammam, in Eastern Province only. Our offices in Saudi Arabia more than the offices which is there in Canada. And this is unbelievable. And the strange thing is here, the competition on the market. It's a price competition. It's price competition. This means nobody care about the quality. And it's a little bit different when you are talking about the small offices. As my colleagues said, he's dealing with small offices or the offices by lot or by villa or whatever. It's by unit. Huh? Okay. This is the story. He's coming to, let us say, Gassan consultant. And I will offer him, okay, I will design this unit by 500 riyal. My neighbor, he will design it by 200 riyal. The other office, he will design it by 10,000 riyal. All of our product, all of our package will get stamped and approved by the municipality, and this is nobody can explain it, nobody can tell us what's the difference, because from my side I will say I'm the best and I have a very complete package, full package, and it will be okay with you, and by the end it will be approved by the municipality. Regarding the workload also, you can imagine that around 10% only from the workload goes to that 300 offices, okay? And around 90% of the workload which we have it in the market goes for that 10 offices, which is dealing directly with Aramco or with SABIC, which is including GS and GS Plus contractor. You see, that's why I'm saying that our market's unfair, okay? And this is affecting the chance of our architects, our young architects. They don't have that. When you said we have around 300 offices, this means, oh, we have a lot of experts and we built our human capital very well, but unfortunately, no. So, there's a gap, there's a huge gap in the market.
I would really wish to continue this talk, but just concerning the time, I would appreciate to have the students and our audience engage more with the talk, with the speakers. I think Professor Yahya wants to say something.
I have a small presentation here that we do actually offer to our clients. I just want to share it with you before we start the discussion, if you allow me.
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
3 minutes.
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
I think.
So if you...
You have to.
Yeah, I have it. With the staircase that goes, this big, and then
Right and left.
yeah, exactly. ايش اسم البرنامج؟ خديوي.
Classic.
خديوي Ismail now is a hot item on the thing, and everybody wants to build a palace like a Khdewi. And their site is like 500 square meters, and the stair itself will take 300 square meters. Okay, seriously. So what we do is we sit with the client. Okay, we take the brief, all right, and then we develop a program. This is before we even sign a contract with them. This is just to tell them that this, whatever you're asking, is going to cost you that much money. So when we give them our quotation, that percentage that you're talking about is very obvious to them. So let me just give you this example. Okay. Now here's a real example of a site for somebody in Al-Khobar, surrounded by 2 streets. Lot area is around 880 square meters, which is considered a large piece of land compared to today's standards. And of course, the municipality allows you to build 60% of the lot, so he can build up to 527.7 meters. Of course, there are certain requirements like setbacks and other things. So we show the client this slide just to tell him that this is the maximum area you're allowed to build. Of course, there are garages and things and that you can do. Now, if you look here, please. This is the quotation. Actually, the quotation is a number of pages. Okay, it's almost 10 or 11 pages. Okay, this is after just the first meeting, first client meeting, without giving him our official quotation. Okay, just to tell him, is this what you want? So we summarize his requirements in tables, and these are interactive tables. Okay, so if he says that I need, for example, a driver room that is 3.5 by 4 meters, it's 14 meters. So if he says no, which is typical, just give him 2 meters, okay, by 3 meters, we khub alayh, okay. Automatically the area will be calculated. Okay, so this talks about the driver area, the yard, and so on. Some of them require basement floors. Okay, so the basement is calculated separately because, of course, the construction cost is completely different. And we add an area, roughly, plus or minus 15% at this stage, is not going to kill us. Then we talk about the ground floor, and of course, al-majalis, galat harim, galat rijal, all these, early requirements that the client dreams about. Okay, and he has collected a number of images from House and from Architecture Daily, and with large windows, mind you. Okay, and he wants to have things like this. So we tell him that the total area for the ground floor, based on the requirements, is 336, which is within the 60% that he can build. This is a real situation, by the way. This particular client said, I don't want a lot of rooms, I want enough outdoor spaces, no swimming pool because it's only for decoration. I need a garden and so on. So 336 in a site that is 880 is quite small. Okay, so more than 60% actually goes to the garden. And of course the upper floor, and I don't want to go into the details, I just want to show you the schedules that we do. And then of course for the roof annex, the maid quarters and storages, sometimes recreation on the roof annex, okay, which is allowed. The 2.5 floors is allowed in that particular area. Then we have a summary of all the requirements. Okay, so driver area, basement, ground floor, first floor, roof, annex, front boundary, side boundary, the parapet, everything has to be calculated in terms of square meters, and that'll give us the total number of square meters that this person will actually build. And then we have a summary of the actual cost. In this area, the land, by the way, and our friend Yousif can maybe support me in this. If the land value, okay, is 2,000 riyals per square meter, the construction cost will almost be exactly the same as the land value. Okay, so that will show you, as I will show in a minute, that the land value in Saudi Arabia is really inflated. Okay, that's why developers are not building too many houses, because the land is very expensive. That's why the government wants to put these taxes on land to lower the prices. So for this particular example, okay, we said that we will charge a total of 120,000 riyals to do the architecture, the landscape, and the hard interiors. All right?
How much?
120,000 riyals.
Okay.
Okay, now if you look at the calculations for this, okay, this schedule, actually, we have another schedule here that shows the actual construction cost that we do actually for our developers and for the normal clients, to tell him that you are going to build a villa on a piece of land that is worth money, and the villa is worth money. So this is an investment, okay? And the most important thing in the investment is the design stage. If the design is good, then the investment is good. Even if he doesn't want to sell it, not now, maybe 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, we tell him that you are investing that much money, you're putting that much money in this particular land, you have to invest it correctly, all right? So to summarize, I will show you, if you look at this, this is based on actual figures, all right, and an average construction cost of 1,600, all right? Now this value can change, and if we change it, we will see the result of that. Let me just bring this one closer here so we all can see it, all right? This talks about the land value, which is about 3 million riyals. Construction cost is 2.3 million. Administrative fees, just so we can do this calculation for him, 27,000. Architectural fees, 120,000. If we look at the percentage, all right, which is actually summarized in this by the chart, 53 or 54% of the investment, the entire spending is going for the land. All right, and 40% is for the construction, 0.5% is administrative fees. The architect fee for all his work is 2.1% of the total value of the investment.
Excuse me, Doctor.
Yes.
I think it's also not including only the architectural work. It's including the whole
Engineering,
package.
yes.
Yeah,
We're
engineering.
talking about
And landscaping.
So the most
And landscaping.
yeah,
And landscape.
the most important is that we have to understand, according to the international standard, this percentage is nothing. We do it for free, and we have to believe that we do it for free.
Yes. Now, this person who has spent 3 million riyals, okay, on a piece of land, he has paid the real estate agent 2.5%, okay, in order to get the deed, 2.5%. And architects, okay, are struggling, okay. We're talking about 120,000 riyals. You guys might think, wow, 120,000, that's a lot of money. It's 2.1% doing architectural, engineering, landscape, and hard interior design. We're actually losing. Okay, so
It's 2.1% of the construction cost.
of the total investment cost.
Are you sure that
Yani
you're
we-
breaking even? Are you sure that you're breaking even with this client? Or you're paying from your own pocket?
Well, sometimes we end up paying from our own pocket. But that's the situation. We are competing with offices that will charge 30,000 riyals. Can you imagine if you put 30,000 riyals?
10,000, 2,000.
5,000.
Actually, just last week,
So-
a client bought his full package for 2,500 riyal.
Yeah.
Full package, including the stamp by Baladi.
But let me also show you another example, okay, for the investor side, Mr. Yousif, okay, who doesn't want to work with us here. Now, this is a study we did for one of the investors here, because development, all right? They had a piece of land that had 14 lots, okay? And we, in our office, we do financial studies, all right? So based on the same calculations, same areas, everything. All right, we did it for 11 villas. Okay, this is the site. There are 11 lots here. Of course, these are two extra ones, which is, a palace, medium palace, we call it, large palace. And I just want to show you how much money they make. All right, so you have to defend yourself as architects, okay, to get more money from the developers, or you work as a developer. Okay. Now, if we consider the price of land here is 2,000 riyals, okay, and we pay 2.5% amula, sa'i, we have no problem with that. Then, of course, we look. These are lots that are for sale. So you're not going to build a lot of ground floor area and so on. So the built area is 320 for the first floor, 320 for the upper floor, and 60 for the roof annex. No bedroom, of course, because it's smaller villa, and that will give us a total. Okay, including everything. By the way, this is based on facts: the land value, construction value, fences, garden, swimming pool, elevator. Okay, you have to provide. Construction cost here is based on 1,500. And if you sell this villa, for example, which is the price at this time is around 5 million riyals, this is how much money the investors will make. 71% of the investment. Translating into dollars, okay, that's the exact calculation in this schedule, and I want each and every architect to realize this. I realized it late, actually, unfortunately, but for you guys, I think it's too early. That's the cost of the project, 32 million. This project sells for 55 million riyals. The profit is 22 million riyals. Percentage-wise is 35%, which is a lot of money. Okay. Now, if you take the percentage of the architect only, okay, in this example, okay, we're talking about including management. We're talking about design, supervision, and management. Okay, including marketing. It's only 4%.
So we need to zoom in.
Sorry. Yeah, maybe 4%. Okay, so the money actually goes for the client, whether he is just a normal client or a developer. Okay, this is where we really do not, we cannot ask architects, okay, to hire key designers in their offices, okay, and we'll be able to pay for them to cater for these the developers or the government or Aramco for that matter. I think this thing in Dubai, because they are willing to pay more in Dubai. What they pay here in Riyal, they pay it in dollar in Dubai, and they are happy to do so.
4 times.
And I think not including engineering. Like
Exactly.
Dubai, only architecture.
Exactly. This is just a small summary of what we found out from our previous experience. Unfortunately, architects are well underpaid in the practice. I'm not talking about large architectural offices. I'm talking about medium-sized to small-sized offices. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, so we couldn't plan for this. We're gonna, I really thank you for bringing this up, and it was well presented, and we couldn't plan for us to have such vast information and a bigger perspective on knowing exactly or shedding light on how medium scale offices, or let's take that out, only small offices here in Saudi Arabia, and how what type of compensation and what are pressures that we're facing today in the offices in Saudi Arabia. So I'm going to open the floor for discussion for 1 or 2 questions, and then I'll invite both the speakers from the first panel and the second panel to join and have kind of a roundup and final remarks to the issues and points that we raised today. So anybody who has any questions?
I have a question actually about this last point, the unfair market. They want to ask all of you, what kind of advice you give us as a student for the situation? And the second question is, what do you think if there's a solution? The solution.
Raise his hand, and then we'll go
Fine.
to you.
First of all, be an architect. أنت architect, you have to be an architect. لما أقول be an architect, you have to أنت مو تاجر, but you have to have the skills اللي عند التاجر. تمام؟ أنت ما أنت manager, but you have to have the skills, you have to have the communication, you have to have the knowledge. أنت شفت الشيت اللي قدمها الدكتور ما لها علاقة بالشيء اللي تدرسونه في الجامعة, ما حد علمكم كيف تسوي بريك داون, بس هذه أنت مضطر تسويها على أساس أنك في النهاية تحمي نفسك مع المنافس, لأنه يعني بعض الكوتيشنز اللي تيجي من السوق كذا صفحة واحدة, بسوي لك المشروع الفلاني ب100,000 ب10,000, طيب إيش بتسوي؟ إيش الباكج؟ ما حد يعرف. فهنا الفرق, هنا الفرق. فأنت بس be an architect و be very professional و be يعني fighter. You have to fight.
بالمقارنة جعفر يعني the one quotation, and you see this, the small offices, some small offices, when they quote a building, there's no scope of work included, you give basically one page. But if you compare it to the process that Tariq Fadak explained today, it took 10 minutes, and I think that was the longest answer to describe only replying to a DBSB that comes from.
Here the يعني when you يعني البوزيشن يعني أنت بالضبط culture تبع الكلاينتس نفسها تغير. أنت عندك very strong client, very educated, Aramco. He has a يعني army of reviewers على أساس تراجع الدوكيومنتس اللي أنت تسلمها.
And the budget is big. They have the time for them to deal with something and to deal with the situation. And small offices medium offices ما عندهم هذا الشيء.
No resources as well.
No resources.
You take about how many people do you take?
Actually,
to respond to us with a scope of work to a DBSB, how many people work on a scope of work?
it's just the assigned project architect.
Team members.
But in every discipline, engineer, he works on this scope. So it's a collaboration thing. So adding to this point, the client always, he doesn't take into consideration he always takes into consideration the initial cost. And we should change this perception. There is initial cost and there is a running cost. And it depends on the architect. As a key consideration, before designing any projects, you have to deal with the regulations. For example, the IBC code, the International Building Code. And these small firms, frankly speaking, they just copy and paste. So when you see a project that costs 10,000, a project that costs 50,000, of course, you will go with the 10,000. But this firm did not consider the running cost. For example, the 50,000, he might did some studies. Like, for example, we always do an analysis called life safety code analysis before kicking off any project. This life safety code analysis, it determines the occupancy classifications. For example, you have a school building, that's a group E, and it's a chain work. For occupancy classification, it gives you if you required a fire sprinklers or not, what are the numbers of the means of egress that will ensure the safety and health for the occupants. These small firms, unfortunately, they do not consider these key consideration that might have an impact on the building after the construction. Because if you built this building, the small building that cost 10,000, and you finish the construction, after the construction, you might end up with losing money because you're going to demolish the building to comply with these codes. But if you went with the 50,000, you might save money in the running cost, save money in the maintenance of the building, because all these consideration has been implemented during the design. So
I hope that I think this is probably one of the largest issues that you face when comparing the large market, and then the large offices and the small offices. And then going back to the chart that we presented, when you're getting a large compensation for large offices and having the power and resources to, you know, get involved in preparing for the next project, then in comparison to the small office where there's probably 1-2 people, or Hassan, how many people were in your office at the time?
23.
23. That was big. I think 23 you would have survived it.
But yeah, again, the overhead, yeah, it's killing. Yeah.
Right.
One thing I would like to comment regarding the question is that the problem is architects do not sell the end product. We're not contractors. We don't sell, you know, a piece of paper. Okay, we sell the idea on the piece of paper. So at the end of the day, even if you design the best design for a client, he's not going to benefit from it unless he builds it. So our work is ideas on a floppy drive, okay, or on a piece of paper. However, a contractor might come and he will make more money because at the end of the day they see something. Okay. I'll give 2 examples. Muhammad Al Hamoudi, he had an architectural practice, an old practice. I don't know if you guys know about it, but he was among the first offices in Khobar. And at the same time, he had a workshop, not a workshop, steel, hadid, mahdada. Okay? And the work he used to do for the clients that came to do their work, he earned more money from making these steel doors and wires and fences and things than he did in the office. At the end of the day, he had to choose between the 2. And you know what he did. Okay, he closed the office. That's one example. The other one is, there is nothing wrong with becoming, you know, a small office. Okay, 44% of the American offices, registered offices, are one sole practitioner. 44%.
Whoa.
And then the next one, which is 2 practitioners in one office, is almost 34%. So you're talking about 78% of all American firms are 1 or 2 people in that office. So there's not, especially, you know, with the technology nowadays, people can't survive as a small office. The problem is the mentality. We're talking about 2% here, providing total solution. In America, the percentage is 12% of the construction cost, not of the land value, of the construction cost.
Yeah.
So if I can get 12%, trust me, I will do 1 project every month, okay? And I will do my best on that project, and I will design it to the fullest detail. Right? Unfortunately, we're not paid that much.
That's the lowest compensation. The highest, if you're going to like Zaha Hadid or Gary, you're getting 100%. I know of a project that Zaha Hadid did 100%. So the construction cost is exactly the design package cost.
Let me tell you this.
Before you do that, Jaafar, I do want to invite the speakers to join us in the conversation, and then we'll get to the point that you mentioned. Jaafar, continue with your point.
Let me tell you this. يعني, before 2 days, I was checking or reviewing one of my estimates, and they're comparing the detailed design cost with the construction cost. And now I'm talking about GS Plus contractor, and this is before the negotiation. The percentage, it was 6% only. GS Plus working for Aramco project, and you're talking about 6%. So you can imagine what's kind of market, what's kind of equality you are going to have on this. So it's a big challenge.
Can I direct a question to Yousif? You're the guy who will be blamed. Look bad in this. No, but I think يعني, we need to look at it from a business point of view as well. الحين لما تجيكم لما بتدرسوا انتوا واحدة من الاشياء اللي انتوا بتسووها في الإيطال هو دراسة financially. How much of money do you actually spend in a project, and how much of money do you give to the design office?
طيب قبل لا اخش بجواب على طول بعطي مقدمه للشباب مهمه جدا، لان انا الحين قاعد اتكلم على الجانب السوداوي في الموضوع. زين بس مهم الحين احنا نعطي الجانب الاوبتيمستيك واللي قاعد نشوفه الحين قاعد يصير في السوق. اللي قاعد يصير الان الامور قاعد تتغير. شوف اذا الكومبetition موجوده الامور تتغير، الامور تصير افضل. في الرياض وجده الموضوع ترى صار افضل، والدكتور اكيد راح يوافقنا في الموضوع هذا. الرياض الكومبetition ترى حاميه جدا صارت الحين. حيروح امشي واحد من شوارع الرياض الجديده وشوف التصاميم مثلا اللي قاعد تشوف، شوف شيء بيرفكت. تصاميم الريزدنشال مثال على ذلك، مثلا جت شركه من المطور من الرياض اسمها كيان، مع انها منافس لنا، جايه هنا في الخبر وبنت في النورس معروف، بنت بلد جميله جدا بالنسبه للخبر هنا تعتبر above الستاندرد الموجوده. عشان كذا انا بنعطي صوره يعني ايجابيه للموضوع للشباب الحين جاهم بدأوا المستقبل طالعين على السوق، الامور قاعده تتغير ما راح تظل على نفس ما هي عليه الان. الكومبetition قاعد تزيد. انا اذكر في 2005 رحت الخفجي، خفجي كان وقتها ما كان فيه الا مكتب هندسي واحد وجالس فيه واحد داخل بالمكتب. لما رحت للمكتب طلع لي كتالوج قال لي اختار التصميم موجود جاهز
موديلات
موديل
تبغى من 2005 تبغى 2004
صحيح والله. قال لي اختار، قعدت اطالع فيه وانا كنت في الجامعه توني طالع من الجامعه، فتطلع تنصدم تشوف الشغلات هذه. الان اتكلم على بعد السنوات هذه المدينه تتطور، يبدا يصير فيها كومبetition، البوبوليشن يزيد، الرياض عشان كذا البوبوليشن فيها زاد. الكومبetition المكاتب الهندسيه اللي موجوده الان نتكلم على كم مكتب معروفين وقويين جدا في الرياض وقاعدين يطلعون برودكتس ممتازه جدا. الناس حتى ذوق الناس الان تغير، بدأوا يوعون لاهميه التصميم. عشان كذا انا اشوف ان اهميه ان احنا نتكلم عن الجانب هذا مهم جدا. الامور راح تغير حتى هنا سون اور ليت راح تغير، والامور راح تصير للافضل ان شاء الله. جده نفس الشيء يعني حقت الرياض في الموضوع هذا. هذا الجانب الاول اللي بتكلم عنه. نيجي نتكلم على موضوع الريتيل في شركتنا. الشركه احنا منظورنا احنا نتكلم على ترى اغلب الاداره معماريين واغلبهم متخرجين من جامعاتنا وعندهم الفكر والكرياتيفيتي ونقدر التصميم. انا اتكلم الحين هنا ليش؟ ان اتكلم على احنا الكلاينت، نوعيه الكلاينت مهمه. المطورين اللي كانوا مستلمين السوق واللي هذا اللي قاعدين يشوفون الان الناس ما هم معماريين ولا لهم علاقه ولا يقدرون العماره صح. عشان كذا تشوف البرودكتس اللي موجوده سيئه جدا، وتشوف المكاتب الهندسيه اللي موجوده الان ما في الاخير ما اخذت نصيبها او حقها الموضوع داخله في المشاريع هذه. احنا في الشركه الان قاعدين نطالع ستاندرد عالي جدا، جالسين ندفع مبالغ كبيره جدا. احنا قاعدين نتعامل الحين في مشروع جديد ان شاء الله راح يكون نبدا بدايه عن مشاريع الشركه. احنا عندنا طبعا مشروع في النور 76 وحده سكنيه، وكان مشروع اول مشروع للشركه. عندنا الحين 164 فيلا في القيروان، وراح يكون افتتاح فيلا العرض في 29 من الشهر هذا. واتمنى ان الشباب يروحون يزورون الفيلا، راح تكون فيري يونيك وفيها لمسات جميله جدا. في عندنا مشروع جديد اليوم في مخطط لسه اندر كونستراكشن عند اوتوموت هناك في الجهه هذه كل يوم يسمونه الكورنيش الجديد. جالسين الان نتعامل مع مكتب استشاري كبير جدا اللي هو نور في دبي، وماخذ اغلب مثلا جالس يصمم اغلب مشاريع الاعمار. انا اتكلم الحين قاعد اعطيك الامثله هذه عشان اوريك نظره المطور الحين اللي نتكلم عنها. نظرتنا احنا مثلا احنا الان الكلاينتس اللي موجود اغلبهم معماريين وعندهم نظره ان احنا بنتعامل مع مكاتب هندسيه محترمه وي ار ويلينج تو باي، ما عندنا مشكله تو جيت الديزاير ريزولت اللي هي نايس برودكت فيري كرياتيف برودكت. المعماري مهم جدا انه تكون عنده الملكه هذه اللي هي الكرياتيفيتي. الكرياتيفيتي ما هي موجوده صراحه الفتره الماضيه، اتكلم عن المكاتب الموجوده عندنا ما هي موجوده، وللاسف راحت بسبب نتكلم عن نوعيه الكلاينتس اللي موجوده كانوا يتعاملون معها الناس وحتى المكاتب الهندسيه. اجيك تبي تبدع، لا يا اخوي لا تسوي لي حركات، ابي مبنى بلين وابي ما يكلفني شيء، خلاص سوي لي اياه كذا وخلاص انتهى الموضوع.
بوجه سؤالي اذا
واحد جايك بالخيمه وجايك قال لك سوي لي.
بوجه سؤال للمساوي الان، انت معماري، you're an architect and you're from the field, you started in 2012, 3 years in the field. How do you convince a client that you have what it takes, that you have the creativity?
بقول له ورني شغلك اول شيء.
مظبوط.
بقول له ورني شغلك اول شيء، خليني اشوف البورتفوليو. شغلك اللي اشتغلته أوريدي؟
I always give them a brochure and I give them the website. And I tell them, if this is what you want, then come back to me. And you have to give yourself a standard and you have to give yourself a prestige. حتى لو كنت شخص واحد. عشان for them to believe in you لازم تبين هذا الشيء. حيكون صعب. أنا بقول لكم من الحين حيكون هذا الكلام صعب. بالعكس أحب أكون واقعي. من خبرتي, don't work hard. Be smart in what you do. Okay? Take an advantage of any opportunity تجيكم إنكم تسووا شغل لأهلكم. حتى لو كان pro bono. Do it freely. لأنه it will affect you in the long process. In the long time, people will see what you have done. Trust me, this is a very good advice لأنه it happened to me. أعطي من عندك قدر الاستطاعة عشان to prove yourself. This is the only way to do it إذا أنتوا قررتوا تفتحوا مكتب. أليس تشتركوا مع شركة, تدخلوا في شركة, هذا موضوع آخر. In terms of developers, أنا شخصيا I believe in prototyping. I do love prototyping. If it is a good design, يا أخي prototype it. I have no problem with that. If there are good units that you can sell and they are extremely good, يا أخي do 10,000 of them. I have no problem. The problem is that you see developers and they're doing a crappy work. You're not seeing good designs. يعني أنا أقدر أقول في منطقة النورس في كومباوند واحد شركة أماراتية سوتها, أظن إذا مني غلطان يا 180 سكوير متر أو 240 سكوير متر الفيلا اليونت. And it's amazing.
Steel.
This is the only one that I could see that, okay, I can see myself living in something like that. It actually outstands. بس أنا أشوف إنه ترى there are good firms هنا في السعودية extremely good. سيبك بس يعني in general that they can do something like this. بس هذا العلم.
طيب يعني أنا ودي again we continue but we'll take one more question from the audience and then we'll have closing remarks. So one more question. Anybody who has any question?
Yes. You talked about how you differentiate between the architect and the construction companies. So why isn't there a relationship between them to work together to sell ready products to convince the client that this is the ready product? As a small.
So you're saying.
يعني أنا لسه ما فهمنا السؤال بشكل واضح. الواضح يمكن أنت تقصد إن ليش الديفلوبر أصلاً يعني هو ما يصمم بنفسه، هذا اللي تقصده؟
أو ليه ما بيشتغلوا مع بعض؟
بالضبط.
هو يقول ليش يشتغلوا؟
لا. This is a good question. Adding to your question.
Okay.
سؤال يعني what are the design basis or the design criteria that imposes the direction of your design? Because we always notice sometimes the real estate they design like 100 units, they sell it, and after the users occupy the building, they demolish everything, they change the facade of the building. And one of the projects I've seen for one of your competitors, they designed a big glass panel in the front facade of the building, and after people bought all the units, they remodeled everything.
Yeah.
So what are these design criteria that guide you into getting
that design process,
getting design that
and
will
the
meet
program.
the client expectation?
جميل. شوف سؤال متشعب طيب، بس خلينا نجاوب على سؤال دايركت. اول شيء على موضوع اول شيء طبعا احنا وي ار ديزايننج اليونتس هذه بناء على خبرتنا مع الكاستمرز. احنا نورمالي وي بيلد سيرفي للكاستمرز وي جيت يعني خصوصا موظفين ارامكو، موظفين سابق، الناس اللي وي كان اكسس اللي لنا اكسس عليهم. السيرفي هذا عاده يكون فيه جنرال انفورميشن وفي معلومات محددات من المصمم تساعد في عمليه التصميم، بحيث انه مثل المساحات، البرايفت رومز اللي يبغاها والشغلات اللي زي هذه. عاده نبني البروجرام بناء على الكويشنير اللي احنا نسويه للزبون. هاويفر انا اشوف ان لسه تتكلم على خاصه الديزاين بروسيس اللي لها علاقه بالتطوير ما هي ماتشور انف، والدليل على ذلك الكلام اللي انت قلته الحين. شوف خليني اقول لك شيء مهم جدا وخاصه للناس اللي موجودين. التصاميم الموجوده الوحده، والدكتور اثار نقطه مهمه اللي هي الوحدات جالسه تصغر الحين. الوحدات السكنيه وهي تصغر الان، الزبون لما يجي او الكاستمر الاند يوزر لما يجي يسكن في الوحده السكنيه راح يسكن فيها لمده 6 سنوات 5 سنوات يمكن اكثر شوي، بس بعدين راح يضطر انه يكسر ويعدل اساسا تناسب احتياجاته المستقبليه. للاسف الى الان المطورين ما جالسين ينظرون للموضوع هذا اللي هو how to make this house expandable، وبنفس الوقت اقدر يكون flexible بحيث ان I can add more rooms that suit me in the future. الحين احنا في التصميم الجديد، في المشروع الجديد اللي جالسين نسويه في المعالي، تبنينا الفكره هذه. جالسين نسوي مشروع بحيث انه يكون يعني ممكن مع ان الوحده صغيره لكن ممكن انك انت تكبر فيها قد ما تقدر. نعطيك ايكونوميك موديل، فيلا ايكونوميك فيري ايكونوميك. نتكلم من ناحيه عدد الوحدات، من عدد الغرف، من ناحيه حتى التصميم، الاشياء الجماليه داخل البيت. يعني مثلا هيدن لايت، الشغلات اللي يو كان ميك يور هاوس يعني ادفانس بانك انت تسويها بعدين في المستقبل. but it's possible to make it. You can make it easily without breaking the walls والشغلات هذه. نفس الشيء بالنسبه للغرف، تقدر تسوي ديوانيه بالبيت الصغير هذا، تقدر تسوي مسبح، تقدر تسوي غرفه زياده في المستقبل، غرفه نوم زياده، فهذا كله يكون موجود كبروفيجن موجود في التصميم في الفيلا. هنا نتكلم عن الكرياتيفيتي، الزبون في المستقبل وكيف يكبر معه في المستقبل. للاسف التصاميم اللي كانت موجوده والكلام اللي انت تتكلم صحيح موجود، اغلب المطورين ما فكروا بالموضوع هذا بسبب انهم في الاخير هم يفكرون بس انه كيف احصل فلوس بسرعه. ما يهمني، اهم شيء البرودكت كويس ويمشي حاله والناس يبونه وفي مجلس معزول ومش عارف ايش ويلا لكن الاوبشن
بالعافيه. احنا we have around 5 minutes and I wanted يعني I think what we explored today is really tremendous, but I think I'm hungry for one more comment and I'm gonna shed the light on Dr. Babsail. How do you see the future of education to cope with with things that we've seen today? There was a question once Professor Yahya posed to the panel that says the studies of sunlight and shading and shadows and is it something that the engineering offices or architectural offices like Jacobs and Zaid is coping with every day in their normal architectural practice, and on the other hand we have both Jaafar and Yousif adding more in terms of expertise, and they're the clients who are or the office architects who are in need of certain expertise to handle such projects. So what do you see the educational side in terms of coping with these expertise?
طيب, I think يعني education wise or to uplift in general the practice and the profession of architecture, education is just one part. Practice and the examination probably that should be managed by the Saudi Council of Engineers. Yani they should all together, the 3 pillars, they should work together closely to uplift the profession of architecture. Education by itself is not enough yes, it might produce great architects or junior architects, I would say, but the profession, we are talking about the profession in general, is not enough by education only. If you look into the cases of the developed countries like US, Australia, UK, or many countries around the world, being educated in a highly professional school does not by itself makes you an architect. You have to go through practice, in some cases at least 3 years, and you have to take an exam. Because I think it was mentioned here before, that the ethics, of an architect, and you're all guys advising our young generation, yes, be an architect, as Jaafar said, be an architect and be proud of being an architect, but also have your ethics high.
Correct.
And to have your ethics high, you cannot just say, Wallahi, I studied and I learned at school. School is not enough. You have to go through practice and you have to take an exam. This is what, in my mind, might help our situation in Saudi Arabia here to become more mature, and therefore all these issues about the the payment, the fees of an architect will eventually raise up, because you are getting a person who is designing for you. It's like it becomes more or less like a medical doctor, استشاري مثلا. استشاري is not, his استشاري fees is not like a مختص, it's not like a general practitioner, medical doctor. Every stage has its own fees, and to reach to that level you have to go through all these years of practice and education and examination. Once we do that, then the fees, and I think the profession in general might be raised.
So I think we end up.
We would like to thank them.
Yes, this will end up the panel for today, and I won't give a conclusion. I think we've had that so far throughout the panel. So at the end, we would like to thank you all for coming and being engaged in the sessions today, and of course, a big thank you goes to the speakers who took time out of their professional life to come and tell us how difficult it is to be there on the outside. At the end of this, I would like to call them up by name and give them a small gift that the school and the university is giving to them as our gratitude for their show up here.
Okay, so thank you for this. From the university to thank you, and we wish always to welcome practitioners to come to the school and have this discussions and dialogue between us as educators and you as a practitioner. So at the end, the students learning will actually not only get from us only, it's also from the practitioner side of you. So first we gonna call by names. So Mr. Amr Bazawi, I would like to thank you very much for And then we have Mr. Jaafar Bu Hulaiga.
نحن قلنا نجيبه بس هذا عشان الأقل. Is it?
No?
Is it clear?
Clear? Okay. شكرا يعطيك العافية.
And then we have Mr. Jaafar Bu Hulaiga. We have Mr. Tariq Fatah. And then we have Mr. Yousif Al Hamoudi. And then we have Mr. Yahya Najjar.
Thank you, very valuable.
And then the moderator, Abdurahman, Medallah. and myself, Amaroha.
طيب student exhibition